experiences through football, and it's kind of funny. At the time, I in 5 years of college eligibility, I played under 6 different head coaches, which for a player might be a little confusing, but if you were going to coach later in life, it was a great experience because I saw a lot of different ways to approach the coaching profession.
That's pretty interesting. Not gonna lie about that. That is very interesting, especially with John Gruden, Monday Night Football.
There's more. I played for Bill Parcells.
Nice.
I played for Bill Belichick,
Ooh.
Tom Coughlin, Romeo Cromwell. Had a lot of really good coaches that I was able to take a little bit from each step of the way.
Very nice. And let's talk about your Delta College football team. Of course, the Mustangs are 3-2 right now. And talk about this Sam Hutzel kid out of Florida. He's been a huge impact. What do you see inside this kid?
Well, with what we do offensively, everything goes through the quarterback, maybe more so than a lot of programs. I know the quarterback is a high visibility position in any offense, but for us, because we don't huddle and so much of what we do is post-snap decisions, not only in the run game, but also in the passing game, also in terms of our pass protection. So mentally, there's a lot that goes on to the quarterback's shoulders, and I've been really happy with his development mentally. I had no doubts with his ability physically, but for him to come in as a freshman and grasp everything that we're doing, it's been I'm very optimistic.
So I'm especially optimistic with his performance too, because he's been pretty much the leader of the whole offense.
Yeah, he's he doesn't shy away from that role either. He's comfortable. He's not a guy that makes excuses or looks for somebody to blame. He's a guy that kind of inspires the rest of the team to perform at a high level and count on each other.
Okay, and Cowboy Nick, you got some questions though you want to ask,
yeah,
so take it away.
I was curious on your offensive play. I constantly see it, and I think it's is it in your eyes? Is it a kind of a variation of the Wildcat, or is it your own variation play?
Well, I'm not certain how you would call it. I'm not sure if it's in any actual categories, but we have been real consistent with what we've done. We've have a system that we believe in, and it's a balanced attack, and we will use the quarterback as a runner opportunistically when we feel it warrants. We also have another quarterback on our roster who is a very talented runner, and we'll sometimes feature him in the attack as well.
Yeah, and we have actually here at RTV, we actually have named your offense because we all one of these days we just decided, when you guys are playing San Jose College.
And this was all created by him.
All created by me, of course. I said to myself, I go, you know what? This offense, we don't have a name for it, so I decided.
So what they would do though is they would get up in like a Wildcat formation, kind of like a shotgun Wildcat formation. Except he doesnesn't call it the Wildcat. What's your name for it, Nick?
I dubbed it the Wild Horse offense.
Wild Horse.
Because I figured because we're a Mustang and stuff, and the Wildcat name doesn't suit Delta, so I said it's the Wild Horse offense.
Could stick. You never know.
Yeah.
You got to trademark that,
And also, I had another question for you. What 3 players do you see on your team right now that have the potential to go play at the next level?
Well, the one thing that has been consistent since our staff has been here, and we've been. This will be our 11th season. Each year, we send about somewhere between 10 and 15 of our student athletes on to 4-year schools, and it's been that way consistently. So I think we do a good job of preparing them to move on to the 4-year level. Obviously, they have to have their academics in order for that to happen, and then in addition, they have to do enough out on the field that's going to inspire somebody to pay for their college. And we also, I think, market our players maybe more aggressively than a lot of other programs. We put highlight films together. We get them up online. We have a dedicated server here on campus as opposed to hosting the video on an outside source like YouTube or something like that. So we have a little bit more institutional control over the quality and the distribution.
I actually wanted to get to last week's game because defensively, you guys did excuse me, pretty well against the Rams last week, and how will it impact the next game?
Well, there was some really big positives to take from last week's game. I think the one common thread throughout our whole program, though, is that there's no feeling of moral victory. We feel as though that was an opportunity missed, and we're not supposed to play those teams close. We're supposed to beat them. That's the way we approach our program.
But they're basically known for scoring 48 points a game. How did you hold them to 17 points?
Well, we've played them 3 times since we've been here, and they've never scored 20 points against us. So
wow,
this is not a, this is.
So it's no big deal then.
Well, it is a big deal because it means we're competing at a high level and it's important. But however many they score, we got to find a way to get one point more.
Exactly, man. Seriously, but according to the Stockton record for the. You said that the Delta Mustangs made a few key mistakes, though, that would have won the game. So can you tell us what the mistakes were? Or?
Well, there were several, and one of the things that we hang our hat on is that we're in this thing all together, and no single person wins a game, and no single person loses a game. I think the biggest lesson that we can learn from last Saturday's game is we can definitely isolate some self-inflicted wounds that we committed on ourselves that had nothing to do with our opponent. And if we can rid ourselves of those and put ourselves in a position where the only possible threat to us is the opponent, then I think we'll be a much better football team.
Cowboy?
And yes, here's another question for you. So, what is your strategy for your team to mentally prepare yourselves for this upcoming game?
Well, we're transitioning from non-league competition into league competition, and the makeup of California Community College is kind of unique. There's 3 levels, very similar to Division I, 1AA, and D2 in the NCAA. In community college, we have an A level, a B level, and a C level, and the only teams that can compete for the state championship are the A level teams. So in Northern California, there's 2 conferences that are A level teams: the Valley Conference that we compete in, and the NorCal Conference that San Francisco City competes in. So everybody now is in a 12-team tournament, and the winner of the Valley Conference will play the winner of the NorCal Conference. The winner of that game will be the Northern California champion and will play the best team from Southern California for the state championship and usually the national championship. Generally speaking, the best team in California is the best team in the country. So it's kind of exciting for us, and provided we repeat, we were conference champions last year. If we are able to pull that off again this year, then there's a good opportunity that we might get a chance to avenge our loss on Saturday if San Francisco City were to win their conference as well.
And hopefully to go to a bowl game as well.
Right. It's that would be part of a playoff system, and then in addition to that game that leads to the state championship, there are also bowl games as well.
Absolutely, Cowboy.
Yes, and also when you, because we've read some stuff about you playing for, like, as we talked about the New York Giants. What was it like playing for NFL Euro? Playing for Barcelona. Was it different from American style? Or
No. It was a very, the head coach of that team was a guy named Jack Bicknell, who was Boston College's head coach when Doug Flutie was playing. He's a very good coach, very good man. It was a good experience for me. I really enjoyed playing, so any playing experience that I had was a positive.
Do you take that into what you've learned from playing in the NFL? And your NFL Euro, do you take that onto the field when you train the Delta team?
Well, playing and coaching is 2 different things. I think each can help each other, but when you play, you really are focused on your own performance, whereas when you coach, you have to be focused on your performance as a coach, but you also have to constantly evaluate and enhance all the people around you. So everybody within our program, it's my job to help them be better.
And I couldn't agree more,
Yeah,
though. So
exactly.
exactly. So how does playing? What's the difference between playing and coaching to you?
I would say that in my case, and I can't speak for anybody else, playing is kind of a selfish pleasure. I really enjoyed it, but the pleasure was very selfish. I was the one that got the pleasure out of playing, and in coaching, it's you get a little bit more satisfaction when you see your players develop or mature or overcome obstacles or have success. I think the best comparison I can draw is when you're a little kid. The only part about Christmas that really inspires you is receiving the gifts. And then as you get a little bit older, you also get a lot of pleasure out of giving gifts and bringing happiness to others as well. So I think that's how I would compare the two between playing and coaching.
Yeah, that's a pretty good
It
perspective,
is,
though.
it
So,
is.
Cowboy, you actually had a couple more questions, though. You wanted to.
Yes. Also, being a former defensive lineman in high school and stuff, when you look at your defense, what are some of the strategies you like to teach them? Because I've noticed, like we kind of see for me exactly. I kind of see like you have kind of like this brick wall defense that you just like slams into them. Is that part of your overall strategy? Is to use the brick wall, or do you like to get your safeties and linebackers in the backfield?
Well, it's kind of an interesting question. Our defensive staff, first of all, our defense in general is very, very cutting edge, very innovative in what we do, very aggressive. Our offense usually gets most of the attention, but our defense is very potent. Our defensive coordinator, Todd Harrington, does a wonderful job, and we base what we do on a lot of movement and a lot of speed and constantly attacking from different locations.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot. I've seen lots of blitzes coming off your defense, and when I see that, I just love it because I'm like, you're like I always say, you're unpredictable. Like I always say, you have like when we announce you always have those couple of tricks you pull out of your hat, and it's just amazing. Like they see someone going, like you'll see someone, they'll think, oh, they're gonna come this way, and then you guys just on the line switch it, or you know.
We have blitzes for every player on the field, so we'll blitz our safeties, our corners, our linebackers.
What kind of blitz?
Not all at once, but
I was gonna say, what kind of blitzes though? In differently, what's do you have to do though for like the blitz plays?
Well, you try to isolate what the other team's blocking scheme is, and you try to exploit it or outnumber it with one of our movements or pressures. It really becomes a numbers game. If they're sending 3 guys to block in a certain area, then if you have 4 over there, you're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, that would be in pretty good shape though. So
yeah, and I've noticed as well, your linebackers they're really, really. I've noticed them. They're really keen on going because a lot of colleges I see they spend more of their time going after halfbacks and the receivers, but you guys are really keen on to going after the halfback, the receiver, and the quarterback instead of one particular player goes after this certain player or one goes after this one. You pretty much get everyone into the mashup.
Well, I think from college on up, college, NFL, if the quarterback's comfortable, they're going to perform pretty well. I mean, any college team who puts a guy back there to run their offense, they feel pretty good about him. So if he can be comfortable, he's going to be able to perform pretty well. And so my thought is that we're at our best when that quarterback isn't comfortable. When we're creating some anxiety, tension, apprehension, intrepidation, anxiety, fear, any of those things, all good.
all right, we have one more question here before we're going to let you go. Let's talk about the running back game. Chris McGinnis-Parker and Marquise Miller. What roles do they play in the Delta offense?
Well, we run a very balanced attack, and so running the football is key to what we do. Those running backs are also pass receivers in our offense with our screen game, and they also have to block in terms of pass protection when we get the ball down the field. So the running back position is vital. That's a big part of our offense. it's the when you have the ability to run the ball on people, you're a much more formidable opponent. If the defense can make you one dimensional, then you're much easier to defend.